It's another edition here of Zero Block 30, and today we have 5 rounds in the magazine. Round number 1, 5 FBI agents were caught receiving some good old-fashioned Carolina squeezers while on an overseas trip. We don't prostitute shame, but the Department of Justice, it turns out that they do. Round number 2, we have some lessons in leadership from my former guy, Urban Meyer, who's going to be fingering butts in a different part of the country now that he has been fired from my beloved Jacksonville Jaguars. Round number 3, we have great news on the podcast. We are officially, and you all are too, we're officially smarter than rocket scientists and brain surgeons. And then a new research that came out. Round number 4, the Taliban have been on an absolute media blitz. What the fuck is American and UK's media outlets doing? Have you guys seen this? Legit, like they're essentially press secretaries from the Taliban are getting interviewed by like the BBC, the Associated Press. They're saying all these things like, oh, we want to be a part of the world too. It's the Taliban.
Right.
Stop.
You kind of forfeited that a little while ago when you decided to be
people
horrible
shit on
people.
us if we have somebody that's a little too conservative or a little liberal.
Yeah.
But the BBC is out here posting articles about the Taliban trying to redo their image. No, sir, we're not going to tolerate that. And finally, round number 5. Shockingly, I never heard this story. I want to see if you guys had. But Jimmy Carter is our badass of the week because an event that left him with radioactive piss for 6 months.
Whoa.
Did you guys know that Jimmy Carter did some extremely heroic stuff in Canada when he was in the Navy?
No.
Nope. I had no idea.
Mind-blowing. Like I read it, I was like, this has got to be a joke. Like surely people would talk. Jimmy Carter gets shit on all the time, and he had a lot of really great ideas, like really fantastic ideas. And I don't.
You know why? People don't take peanuts or legumes in general seriously enough.
Yeah,
See,
no,
that's all it is about Jimmy. Is just peanuts and old jokes. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all he gets.
Right.
It's because he was a farmer, and a farmer, I think, is a very simple connotation. And he
even
was
though
so
it's
much more
not
than-
like
It's not.
even on like the Farm Simulator 2019, when I try to play that on PlayStation, that shit's hard. Calculating how many soybeans you have in a field, buddy.
Takes brains, brawn, is a fucking getting up early, hard work ethic. Yeah, it takes a ton. But the peanuts, people don't take it. People think about Reese's cups. They think about being at a bar, cracking some shells.
Well, I'm gonna have a stone cold fact here for you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Without Jimmy Carter and the likes of Jimmy Carter, there's not a single Snicker bars that sells in the United States of America. Not a single.
Carter is the
Good
reason.
point. Good
Absolutely.
Not just that, but anything peanut related, you could say.
Peanut
all right,
butter
so
ice
we
cream.
have a big episode today. We have all those topics, but before we really get into it, I wanted to talk about kind of what's going on in my little personal world of the VA. And what I really want to avoid is the idea that we hate the VA.
Right.
I do not hate the VA. And in fact, I think a vast majority, I would say 95% of the people who are working at the VA really, truly care about veterans and doing what's right by veterans.
Yes.
But unfortunately, there is that 5% who might not. And I think I had some experiences with that 5% over the past couple months that has really been, it's been stressful, honestly, because I've been out of the Marine Corps. I actually looked it up today. I've been out since the end of 2012. And before, I was one of the lucky few that started the program where you couldn't get out of the Marine Corps, retire medically, until everything had gone through the VA process. So to give you an idea, the Marine Corps decided in, I think, June of 2012 that my post-traumatic brain injury and PTSD and some other issues that I was dealing with were too severe and that I was going to be medically retired. And then at that point, they said, now you have to wait for the VA process to go through. Well, the VA did their thing. And then at the end of the retirement process, you get to pick whether you want your money to come from the Marine Corps or whatever branch of service you're in, or the VA, and you just choose which one is greater. Like that's just the way the system is designed. That's the way the system works. So since that time in 2012, when I first got out, December of 2012, I had the same exact rating. My rating has been the same. I've gone probably every 2 years, maybe every year and a half at the beginning, but now it's like every 2-3 years to do reevaluations for certain injuries that I had, like the brain injury, to see if it's progressed, if it's gotten worse, or PTSD to see, am I still getting treatment? What kind of medication am I on? Really just to track me through the process. I have zero problem with that at all. One, because it shows that at least every 2 years, they're going to have to talk to me and see if I'm in really bad shape medically. If I need something to go on, if I need an appointment, they'll tell me to go to the appointment if I really need it. So I like that. And two, it gives me an idea of what I need to work on and to see, and it gives them data essentially of how these types of injuries progress over time. Because there's not a lot that we've had. We know so much more about brain injuries now than we did in World War II time, in Korea, Vietnam. Yeah. So they're able to track what's going on with our brains much more than they were in the past. One of my injuries and one of the highest rated disabilities that I have from the VA is because of burn pits, and it's asthma that was the result of burn pits. For lack of a better word, whatever the fuck they call it is what they call it. Well, that one was at 60%. Like, so the way that the VA works, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm not even
I was just going to say, don't even attempt to do VA math right now, because
I need people to kind of get it just a little bit. Right. Because when you look at something and you say, oh, you're at 90%, oh, you're at 70%, you're at 60%, the way that you get to those numbers can be very confusing. For example, just real quick, if I'm at 70% for PTSD and I also have a hand injury that's going to be rated at 10, and then a knee injury that's going to be rated at 10. Well, that 70 plus 10 plus 10 is not 90. That 70 plus 10 plus 10 is like 74. Right. And you have like the way that it's on the chart, it just doesn't make sense. It will not make sense talking to you about it, but that's about as best as I can explain it in simple terms as that. Well, they were going to reduce my asthma one, for lack of a better term, the asthma one from 60 down to 10. Which would have taken my rating from 100 down to 94. They do not round up. If you're at 94, you go down to 90. It has to be 95 and above for you to go up to the next level. Well, that changing of the diagnosis would have taken me down. Well, but what does that mean? What's the big difference between 100 and 90? Well, the payments are not equal across the board either of what you get. So if you're 100%, you get like $3,500 a month. And this is, it's private information for me, but it's public too. You can look it up anywhere.
You can look up the pay scale. It's very public.
Right. So you have mine that's at 100% that you get like $3,500 a month for. Dropping down to 90 gets you about $1,800. So
yeah, the jump from 90 to 100
huge difference. The difference between 98 to 100 is enormous. You have that coupled with the fact that I live in Texas, and if I'm at 100, I don't have to pay property taxes. At 90, I do. So that's another, on a house like mine, that's another $800 a month. So taking this rating and doing it based off of no scientific data whatsoever, because that's what happened. So when now I'm going to explain to you kind of what happened and how I got here. Kate, you wanted to interject?
So so I'm getting this. You had the full rating for that out of nowhere. Years and years and years later, you get this letter. Is that?
Yes. So I get this letter. I think it was June is when I first got the letter. Hey, we want to do a reevaluation. Come to this clinic. And it wasn't the typical VA clinic that I go to here in San Antonio, because I live in a large area, a huge military population. We have two large VA hospitals that you can go to. I ended up having to go to, and I think I talked about it on the show whenever I did it, this little strip mall. It was a strip mall that had like this. It was dirty as fuck, man. Like, and it was the height of COVID. So it might've even been before June. And you're going in there and you look around, you're like, how are they going to do cardiopulmonary testing on me? Because I've done it so many times. This pulmonary machine is huge. It's as wide as I am, and you have to blow in it over and over and over again. And honest to God, it's painful. Like the experience of going through it, because you have to take your lungs to the point of exhaustion when you're doing this. And there was times that when I was first getting out, when my lungs were really, really bad, that I would bleed. Like when I would be blowing out air so hard and trying so hard to get the machine to read what I was doing, that actual blood would come out of my mouth whenever I was blowing so hard. It's a painful process, and one that I really, really hated to do. Well, I get to this clinic, and that's what I'm expecting, because they have to have the amount of oxygen that's in your blood, that's in your lungs. They test all these different things with machines that I'll never be smart enough to know. They don't do that. They send me to what essentially looks like a dental appointment X-ray machine, and they put it behind my back. They put it in front of my chest. They take just straight up X-rays. They say, thanks, have a good one. I was like, wait, you're not going to ask me any questions about how it's affected my lifestyle, like any of these normal questions that they do in the compensation and review type of appointments. And she said, no, none of that stuff's important. We're just going to go by the X-rays for this. Well, I'm thinking, okay, well, this must just be this must just be like a thing that a check in the box. Like, oh, we saw him. He's doing fine. He's alive. He looks remotely healthy. He's not as fat as he used to be. Like that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I get a letter in the mail. We're going to reduce it from 60 to 10. And I'm like, how? Like, they don't know any. I mean, they didn't check my pulse. They didn't check my heart rate. They didn't check.
No one talked to you. Yeah.
When I went there, and they said, based on this evidence, we think that your condition has improved greatly. And
they
I
haven't listened to the show and know that you have a no running policy for a reason.
Right. And there's a lot of things that are wrong with me that I joke about. Like, for instance, I explained just like 2 weeks ago on Twitter why I actually have had diarrhea since Easter of 2007.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And why
it's not just a bit.
Right. It's not just I can't. Like, if I run hard or if I put myself out there, it takes me so long, and it's dangerous for me to do that. One, because if my oxygen gets thin, it affects my brain injury. Like, all those things are interconnected, and they're awful to deal with. So you learn how to cope, essentially. And that's the biggest part about PTSD, traumatic brain injury, all those things. Learning how to cope and deal with it is, I think, a drastically important skills that veterans have to, a lot of times, unfortunately, learn on their own about what to do. Yeah. For example, when you have PTSD, when you come back, you do it naturally because you know crowds aren't great for me right now, so I'm not going to go to these crowds. Well, eventually you look back and because of the things that happened to you in your service time, a lot of us will think, well, shit, I didn't realize I wasn't doing that anymore, and it's because of this reason I'm not doing it anymore. Well, I started to talk to the VA. And this is really why I wanted to bring it up, because I don't want to shit on the veterans, but I've told Kate this, and I believe Cons has a representative as well. You have got to, if you're a veteran listening to this show, or if you're a family member of a veteran show, you have got to join up with a veteran service organization. Have to. In Texas, it's called TexVet. There's one in every single state. They are a nonprofit designed solely to help you navigate the VA process, because they are bigger than you. And I think a lot of times you have individual veterans, especially on the enlisted side, that have to go up against what feels like you're going up against the government. You getting out as a corporal with 4 years of experience, you getting out as a senior airman with 4 years of experience, you're not used to looking the government in the face and saying, no, that's not good enough for me. You're used to that. You get the answer. You have to accept the answer because that's all you have. These veteran service organizations are designed to help you. In this process, I had one with TexVet. I got on the phone with TexVet. I told TexVet exactly what I thought of the process, what it was going through. And I told them, listen, I host a military podcast. I will record every single thing that happens in our board meeting, because I denied the claim and I said I wanted to go to a board. I told them, I will record everything and put it on my podcast so that people can hear what this process is like, because I think it would be invaluable for people to actually hear what it sounds like. Because Kate, you're going through something now with the VA that you're nervous about, right?
Yeah. Well, and so just to get clear, like, you get this letter from them, they say, we're reducing your thing. We were just talking about this yesterday. I'm the kind of person who gets so intimidated by that stuff. I just accept it. I just say,
you're
okay,
like, oh, I guess that's the answer. I have no recourse here.
Because if I want to fight it, there's going to be so much red tape and bureaucracy and whatever that I'll just get tangled up in it. And I don't have, like, I have all.
And a lot of times it's easier to say, you know what, I'm not going to deal with that.
Mentally, I get overwhelmed.
Even though it's tons of money, like that's tons of, it's
over the course of your lifetime, especially when you think about it.
Even in the course of a month, like most people, like I'm very fortunate where I have a good job and my wife has a good job, but there's tons of veterans who these benefits are how they make it.
Yeah.
And there's been times, like, I don't speak for any other veterans, where my mental state doesn't care about it. Will just let money go. It will just, I can't handle it right now. So I just, fine, you guys win, whatever. I just roll with things that I shouldn't. But so you get this letter saying you're getting reduced, and you reach out to TexVet. They say, did they tell you, like, deny this, don't accept it? Like, what did they tell you?
I already told them that I was going to. That was my initial thing. Like, no, like, I'm not better. I'm not going to take a reduction in this.
You write the VA back. You're like, no, I'm not accepting this. And then they said, fine.
Well, that's the good part about having these veteran service organization, Kate, because you don't even have to do that. Like, that process
Because I wouldn't have even known how to deny the claim.
And that's why I wanted to talk about it, because I don't think a lot of people do. And even my veteran service organization was like, you're able to navigate this a lot better than most veterans. And I thought, I'm lost as shit. Like, I don't, if that's the case, we are truly,
and imagine
truly
being
fucked.
older and not tech savvy and dealing with this. Or
I mean, my mom's
depressed.
dealing it with on behalf of my stepdad, and my mom never served a day in her life other than as a spouse. Like, and she's having to go through it.
Yeah.
So in this letter that I get, there's 3 or 4 different types of forms that you have to mail back, or you have to fax, or you have to upload in different places. They don't tell you how to get to those places, but you just have to figure it out by yourself. And I looked at all this paperwork and I was like, I'm a smart guy. I don't even know which form to send in, because there's 4 different options. Like, if you have this, send it in, and it's also ambiguous, like whenever you're going through it. So I was talking to the veteran service organization, told them that I was going to record everything. Then I had a pre-conversation with some of the people that were going to be on the board with the veteran service organization. And I said, look, I'm going to record this. I'm going to put it out, because I feel like what is being done to me is being done to a lot of veterans right now. Kate, you recently got a letter that you had to prove that you still have independence, or else your money goes down. Mm-hmm. In my DMs right now, there's so many people who said the reevaluation process is a struggle.
Yeah.
And I get it. I get it where the VA is coming from a standpoint of just fiscal awareness and how much this is going to cost. But this country sent us to fucking war and we volunteered. The fact that we have to fight tooth and nail, and have had to really since World War II, veterans have to fight for everything when we get back, is unconscionable to me. Right. Like, the fact that these veterans, primarily who are hurt, injured, rated at 100%, the people who have physically and mentally given the most to the country, have to fight every step tooth and nail in order to be able to live, is absolute horseshit. Yeah. It's horseshit across the board. And it should not take the threat of me putting it on this show for the VA to step up and put it into action. Because the morning yesterday, and this is going to show how fast it is. We're recording on Thursday. Yesterday, I got a call from the veteran service organization and said they looked through my materials more and found that what they tried to do with just doing an x-ray was in fact against the law. So I assumed that what was going to happen was that they were going to make me do the cardiopulmonary function test, which I am perfectly fine to do at any point, because I'm not faking, and I know I'm not faking. And I know 99.999% of veterans that are in the VA system are not faking, because the things that you have to go through to get to that point would not make the money worth it. So they tell me, no, you don't have to do the cardiopulmonary. We're going to move it into total and permanent disability status, where I never have to get reevaluated for anything ever again. So I don't have to do any of that stuff, which is great for me and my family. It was a huge moment of relief. I called Annalise and I said, look, we're going to be in a different position than a lot of people are, because we have essentially retirement set. And she was like, babe, of course we do. Like, what you went through, you deserve this. Like, this money, you deserve it for what you've had to go through and what you go through every day. And that we joke about all the time, but it does affect your day-to-day life. What if I didn't have that in my back pocket? It should not take the fact that I host a big podcast to get things done the correct way. And I've talked to people at the VA, and like I said, I think that a lot of the people in the VA are fantastic, and that's not what they want either, for it to be done this way. Mm-hmm. Sweeping reforms have got to be done. Got to. Part of the reason why it's so expensive is because it's difficult to find appointments. Find it out on the outside. On the outside, we did it on ZBT with BetterHelp, like finding ways to get Gold Star family members therapy. There's ways to do this that make sense. We've just got to do it. You just got to care enough. My wife just published a paper yesterday about veterans getting dental care. The VA sent folks to Congress to say that we don't need to have more dental benefits for folks, because it's going to cost the VA a shit ton of money. Who gives a fuck?
Who gives a fuck? We had plenty
Congress
of money
just
for a war.
A budget $25 billion more than the Department of Defense added. If you add that $25 billion to the VA's budget, all of these issues are handled easily. Stop giving so much money to a non-wartime military and start treating the veterans who fought the fucking war.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Doing dumb shit and making people that are in S6 shops go out and buy 7 TVs to fill the budget so they don't lose money the next year. Do things in a common sense way but it's almost impossible to say that because the government itself is so far beyond common sense right now that it is ruining the fabric of what makes the military great and what makes the veteran community great. Because right now, and I've seen it and I've talked about it a little bit, and soon we're going to move on, trust me, but I've seen where the veterans are going to start reaping the negative benefits of what's going on in the media, where for 20 years, the military has been lauded no matter what. Bad decision in Iraq, 20 different people killed, 7 children killed. It's not the troops' fault. It's the people that are pulling the strings at the top. It's their fault. The troops never get blamed for it. That is going to change. It's going to start going on the backs of the veterans. And if we don't do something about it now, and we don't start acting in a way where we actually care about the veterans, this entire generation and what we've experienced in 20 years of gratitude will be gone, and we'll be living like the Vietnam veterans.
Yeah.
Realistically, I believe that.
No, it is a distinct possibility that we could get to that because, eventually the whole patriotism and wave of patriotism that we felt for the last 20 years, eventually people are going to forget about these last 20 years now that we've left Afghanistan. And I think that was
polling data shows that too, Con.
Right.
Like it really does. The level that Generation Z cares about troops because they don't remember 9/11.
Right.
They don't remember the catalyst of the military appreciation. That shit's gone. It's 20 years ago.
I think people too also kind of got burned out on the blind hero worship aspect of it. It's like,
and people acting like cunts, like people that are in our line of work doing this type of thing. So many of the veterans just act like fucking cunts a lot. Like they act like they're entitled. They act a perfect example is when people on Memorial Day will try to thank a troop for their service and you throw it back in their face. This isn't about me. It's about the fallen. Sometimes it's more about the intention rather than the impact.
Right. But again, those people are, it's so rare. Like again, 99.999% of the veteran community, the military is the most wonderful, but you're right. These small little examples that make the waves that get into people's heads and whatever. And again, the VA too, like we just had the Hunter 7 Foundation on and they were saying like, trust me, if you're a veteran out there, you're doing yourself a huge disservice by not joining your local VA because they're the ones who are going to know what to look for if they see what toxic exposures you've had, like blah, blah, blah. Like I just got hooked up with a new service provider. I love her. My doctor is amazing. It feels like such a relief.
And I don't want the terms to get confused. So I'm going to correct you for a second. Like the person that you're talking about is a primary care physician. You got a new primary care physician. The Veterans Service Organization is separate from the VA. They don't work for the VA. They work on the outside and they provide counsel to people that are trying to get their VA claims or enact their VA rights.
Yeah. Sorry. I wasn't trying to.
No. I understand.
But yeah, the whole thing, it's like, there's so many wonderful aspects of it, but then I still get DMs from people. Again, it falls up too to like mental health care. I just need to be seen like now, and they can't take me now. They can't see me for another month. And it's like, what the fuck? Why is it so hard to?
Yeah, that's a hard thing to swallow too. Like with all these, especially with the claims, I don't understand why it should take so long, especially if somebody has a very full and comprehensive medical history and medical record captured. It should be a pretty easy review and appointment of their disability.
On their end too, on the VA's end, their hands are also caught up in all this red tape of bureaucracy, and they're so backlogged. There's not enough people to do this work too. Like it's like, it's just.
And over the last 6 years, I do want to. There has been enormous improvements in the VA and how they process. Yeah. When I first got out, unless you were getting medically retired, it could take you 18 to 24 months to get your VA rating.
Yeah.
Now that number is down to around 6 months, 5 or 6 months, which dealing with that backlog and the new claims that are on top of that and constantly coming up every single day when people are getting out, that's a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
But there still needs to be more done because once these processes are over, you have to be able to return to your normal life without worrying about this type of thing, because it could be something so small. They look at like, what if that was the best day that I've had? Like, if it was perfect, there was no allergens in the air, I had rested the day before and my lungs were in the best shape that they ever were. And then the next day something rolls around and they're not. Like it's a whole health thing. and it just drives me batty that people have to go through this. And it's not just at the VA, it's with the other departments within the medical side. It's with getting anything done for your house. With it's all way too complicated. There's 2 sites that you have to go through. I don't even know if you guys know this or not, but there's va.gov that has like your official paperwork, and then there's e-benefits that has what your actual percentages are. Why can't you're the second biggest governmental organization in the United States? How the fuck can you not hire somebody who's good at technology to build you a site?
We're just asking for a website.
Every time I try to navigate
Amazon
that shit,
servers.
Every time I try to navigate that shit, I end up so frustrated because I'm not that smart. And I get so frustrated that it often deters me from, that's what kept me. I got so frustrated years ago that I spent years away from the VA. I was like, fuck it, I'm done. I'm too frustrated, especially for those of us with mental issues who
I think that's the most common reaction, is that it's so complicated. And the other thing is people just don't have the patience. So bad. And in their head, a lot of times
it takes a lot to get to that point where you're going to say this is wrong. Like in the veteran community, you don't want to do that. You just don't.
No. So fix it.
Yep. Fix it. All right. Let's move on to
hand jobs.
Hand jobs. That's exactly right. Kate, what do we got here?
Oh,
wait, hold on. Today's show is brought to you by our good friends at Black Rifle Coffee. If you haven't experienced it and you want to go to the VA, I recommend doing so with a huge Yeti Rambler that's absolutely filled to the lip with some Black Rifle Coffee, because you're going to be there for a while, because waiting times are not short, my friends. Get your Black Rifle Coffee. They're doing the buy back, give it back program. All you have to do is go to their website, sign up for it, and you're going to be helping get the cups of coffee into the hands of deployed service members, first responders like police officers, firefighters, paramedics, which I saw a tweet yesterday because of the amount of COVID cases that are popping up again in New York. One of the guys that I love, Dragonfly Jones, was like, it feels like we're going to be clapping at 7:00 again soon. Like, dude, that's how it feels.
Literally, like here in this area, like 4 out of 5 people I know have COVID right now. It's insane.
It's nuts. Insane. Yeah. So make sure that you go to Black Rifle Coffee, because you want to get stocked up on coffee before there's any supply chain issues that happen to come through.
Never have that.
So go get some blackriflecoffee.com right now.
You know what my favorite hand job is?
What?
Holding a warm mug of Black Rifle
Coffee. You got that right. Yep. All right. So tell us about these FBI agents, Kate.
Okay. 5 Federal Bureau of Investigations officials, aka FBI, you might have heard of it, solicited prostitutes while on an overseas trip, according to the DOJ. 4 of the officials solicited, procured, and accepted commercial sex overseas. The investigation also found that 4 of those officials lacked candor about their interactions with prostitutes, loose lip sync ships, and other misconduct during OIG compelled interviews.
You gotta be careful with the loose lip reference when we're talking prostitutes.
Absolutely right. True. Very true. The tight lip, loose lips on them, tight lips. Maybe. Anyway, they also misconduct during interviews, polygraph examinations in violation of FBI policies. And one of those officials made false statements in an OIG compelled interview, polygraph, and more. And the official denied having sex with a prostitute, according to Inspector General Michael Horowitz. Soliciting a prostitute overseas while working for the FBI is a violation of FBI and DOJ policy.
You don't say.
You don't say. Basically, one FBI official lacked candor. What does that mean? You're not spilling the beans?
You're not truthful.
Yes, correct.
It's not exactly saying that they lied, but I think that lacking candor is like you misled.
Yeah, when someone's very candid, they're very open.
Okay, so one of them.
I have a great example, and it's a movie that I think would have been if this movie ended differently, it would be top 3 movies for me of all time. And that's Law Abiding Citizen. I just watched it again yesterday. I think lacking candor is like when Jamie Foxx goes in to interview him and he's sitting at the table and he's like, "Did you kill him? I've wanted him dead for a long time." And he doesn't exactly say yes, but he gives kind of leading answers that lead you to believe it. And he's like, "Well, I have the confession." He's like, "Do you have the confession? I don't think you do. Did you listen to what I said?"
So that's what was going on. So one FBI official wasn't being super truthful with the Inspector General when the official denied observing or placing pills in a package to be delivered to a foreign law enforcement officer, and that another of the officials failed to report having been provided such a package. The Inspector General says there are about 100 white pills, that were
Could
being
be Claritin.
given.
We never know.
Could be Claritin.
Could be Claritin.
Being seen given to a foreign official. A sixth FBI official did not report the misconduct in violation of DOJ policy. The inspector general said of the 5 who solicited prostitutes, 2 resigned, 2 retired, and 1 was removed. And I bet you money all 5 of them were motherfucking married, but that's just
how
me.
pissed would you be if you were the 6th one who didn't even get your dick sucked and you got in trouble because you didn't tell on the other people for getting your dick sucked?
You were at home reading.
Mm.
And you're just trying to be a cool friend. And the report said 3 of the individuals also failed to report their interactions with foreign nationals. There are no details in the report about where the prostitution solicitation occurred or the names of the officials involved. FBI officials be fucking. That's it.
Yeah.
So
we gotta get stop. Just a worldwide policy legalizing prostitution.
Yeah.
So the only thing is, I can see depending on the mission, the level.
So that's what I was going to say.
Whatever, like
they're saying FBI officials.
Careful.
I wonder if they were secret agents, and if they didn't do this, they would have been found out. So they kind of had to go along with everything.
I wholeheartedly think this is just a classic case of TDY goofing. You're out there, you're going on a little mission. You're like, oh, here's a brothel, let's go. And then because that's what people do. And but I do think some of these spots that you're going to be engaging in some like prostitution goofing, you have to be very careful because human trafficking is such a huge problem. And FBI agents being involved in that would be horrific. Like if you're at some place where like let's say like the Dude Ranch in Vegas, where everybody gets a test, there is no pimps or anything like that. I think you'd be better served. That's fine. Better served is probably a bad way to phrase that. But if you're out in a foreign country and there's a lot of, not to say that there's not human trafficking in America, because there definitely is, but if you're in a hot spot of that, very bad.
Yeah, definitely very bad. And I think too, like, again, some of these places aren't always in the best areas, like just putting themselves in these positions.
This is also a very
cowgirl or a dangerous area of the neighborhood. Not great,
right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, this is very also clearly a case of these individuals were in a area of the world where this is very, very prevalent, even more so than anywhere else. And they just didn't think they were going to get caught.
Yeah. One of my buddies got busted when he's in Colombia.
You wouldn't think you'd get caught.
I do try. This is very much where so many people are like, well, guys are going to be dudes, guys are going to be dudes. I would
How's that an
try
excuse?
and flip it. I always try and flip it if I was an FBI agent and I was just out there slaying dick all over town. Like, yeah, I'm just, whatever.
That would be hilarious. Honest to God. If you went back into the guard,
I would be.
And I got a call, be like, hey, Kate got in trouble for what? She was hooking up with some fucking prostitute while she was in Paris. I'm like, whoa, what a wild move by Kate.
Would have used a dental dam. Not a slob.
Oh, of course. Yeah, we're huge. Get your dental dams by Roman.com. That's Roman.com with a promo code dental dam.
Absolutely.
So do you think they should be kicked out of the FBI for this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably so, yes.
Yeah, I do.
I hate to say
that's such an independent
hate to be a square.
Duty. Yeah. Dude, if you want to go, if you're on vacation and you're not on duty and you're not on your job, and it's not somebody being trafficked, go to town. I don't care what you do with your penis.
One of my buddies went with a prostitute in fucking Djibouti.
Right or wrong, Djibouti sounds like a made-up place.
Sounds like the place. Sounds like the place for prostitute.
Also, speaking of places like Djibouti, my favorite answer of all time that you can give on Jeopardy, it comes from a lake from South America. Does anybody know what this lake is?
No.
Kate, biggest freshwater lake in South America? Titicaca is exactly right.
Wow.
So the other day there was a category, silly words and phrases, where they had like ballyhoo, swashbuckling was another one.
Yeah.
A category over, the answer was Lake Titicaca. How the fuck do you
what a
not
miss.
put Lake Titicaca in the silly words?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my wife said, well, maybe that's culturally insensitive. It's like,
it
look,
is.
If we get to the spot where we can't make fun of Lake Titicaca, what are we doing?
Well, I think they also would argue that on Jeopardy, that's a little bit of a sophomoric attempt at humor.
That was Alex's favorite, though. He loved a little sophomoric humor.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
Huge fart joke guy.
Oh, yeah.
Big
R.I.P.
time.
R.I.P.
All right, let's move on to round number 2. We're going to get into some Jags goof, and I don't normally do this, but I think this is just a unbelievable lesson in how
It really is. It really is.
Not to lead grown folks or people in general. And Urban Meyer, his coaching record speaks for itself on the collegiate level from the days that he was the head coach at Bowling Green and brought their record up from, I think, 2 wins to 10 wins in just a season. He did the same thing with then Mountain West Conference Utah, where they got a Mountain West team was able to have the number 1 overall pick, which it was unprecedented at the time. And then he went on to Florida, won 2 national championships and won 1 at Ohio State. So his collegiate wins are not in question at all. He's one of the greatest college coaches of all time. He had been out of coaching for 2 years, accepted the position on a 5-year deal, about $10 million per in Jacksonville. And I was over the moon about it because it's not very often that somebody high profile comes to my beloved Jags, whether that be player or coach. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it is not surprising to see this happen though. Like you can't be completely shocked, right, Chaps?
So I remember one game earlier this season, they played up back near his home in Ohio or whatever, and he stayed out and he went to his own bar that he owns afterwards. And his wife was at home with the grandbabies. He's dancing on the floor with the young lady. He's poking her in the boot, right in my booty hole.
Yeah,
my booty hole. My booty
what was
hole.
that from?
What is that?
The tailgate video. Anyway, an old tailgate. Anyway, he's poking some lady in the booty hole. The video goes viral, and people are like, "Well, 1, that's a little unprofessional, and 2, super unprofessional that he didn't fly back with his team after the game. He stayed."
Yeah, there was a lot of people that were really pissed that he didn't fly back. They're like, I've never seen a pro coach not fly back with the team.
So what else is
so
there?
It started.
Go ahead, Chaps.
January. Shad Khan, the owner, was super stoked about it. He said, I finally got the hire right. The very first real kind of I guess scandal was when Chris Doyle, who used to be the strength and conditioning coach at Iowa, he had to resign less than 48 hours after he was hired because there was all kinds of racially motivated, and he was just a big old racist, essentially is what happened. And so he had to get fired. They brought in Tim Tebow, who hadn't played, I believe it was 8 years since he had played in the league. They gave him a tryout at a position that he never played on a team that was already bereft in talent that needed a bunch of folks. The Jags got fined by the NFL in July for having too difficult of practices during their OTAs. The team was subpoenaed based on how they hired the guy away from Iowa, the strength coach that they fired.
I forgot about that. Hours. Yeah.
So they got that was a $20 million racial discrimination case that they had to get subpoena for it. And I can't imagine that a billionaire enjoys sitting down for depositions where they have to be completely honest about what's going on in their organizations. Not great. After that, then fast forward to October about what Kate was talking about, where Urban was fingering some buttholes. That, if you're a part of my take listener, you have heard about that plenty of times. And there was turmoil in the building this week where he called all the assistant coaches that work for him losers, even though some of them have Super Bowls and he only has 2 wins in the NFL. That's a rough look when somebody has a Super Bowl winning ring on their finger. When he did that, he also benched their best player, Josh Robinson, for fumbling, even though they fumbled the ball as the coaching staff over and over again. Just this week, he said that a player named Cisco, his last name is Cisco, he was drafted this year, was performing much better and showing a lot better on the field in recent weeks, even though on Sunday he played exactly 0 snaps. So he didn't play at all, but apparently has gotten a lot better. And then finally yesterday, the straw that broke the camel's back, Josh Lambo, a former kicker for the Jags, talked about how Urban Meyer kicked him at practice, a 5 out of 10 kick, and told him to make your kicks dipshit. Now, I went to bed at around 11 o'clock last night. I wake up this morning still completely in a fog. And the very first thing I see is like 50 text messages about Urban Meyer getting fired. And I was like, son of a bitch, I missed the moment where I could tweet about this, read all the tweets, but also I was kind of happy because if I would have saw that right before I went to sleep, I would have stayed up till like 4 o'clock in the morning. So
absolutely, you would have.
No doubt about it. But I wanted to talk to you guys about the kicking thing.
Okay.
Because it's a military show. And I'm sure at some point, all of us have had the hands of an instructor or supervisor on you in a physical way correcting you. Would I be right in that?
He was not good at one of the only staff NCOs in I loved my unit who was not great. And he had a little bit of a booze problem, was a little bit over the weight limit. And his one place where he shined or said he shined was that he was really big in the McMap world. Okay. Cool. So yeah, very cool.
You imagine you roll up to a bar on a Friday, like, hey, what's up?
No, but at really this time, that was a big deal.
It was
because the Marine Corps was putting so much impetus on where you were at in the Marine Corps martial arts program, like for promotions and boards and things.
You couldn't get promoted if you couldn't do a front barrel roll or some shit like that. Right. Anyway, so stupid. He was a big time hardo about it, and he would make us line up because you'd have to go through a course.
Was he a red tab?
Have to line up at the toaster. Yeah, he was like black belt, red tab, whatever, but like way past his prime with everything. Like he was like a 10-year staff sergeant. Like,
oh hell yeah, the best.
Oh, those are the best.
Like the veins across his nose.
Those are either the best Marines, legitimately no sarcasm, that just do not give a fuck about pleasing like their commanders or at all, or they are just absolute garbage who slip through the crack. That's the only two things that could possibly be.
And as a woman in the military, you develop a real good spidey sense for people, like real fucking good. And my spidey sense.
Hey there, Corporal Mannion.
Yeah. So, hey there, Devil Dog. You need a tour of the base. Devil
hey
Dog,
there, fucking kitchen gloves.
Yeah. So anyway, we would have to line up, and this is normal part of McMap is that and I think in any martial arts, you practice kicking and hitting each other in the same spot over and over and over.
Body hardening.
But he was a big man. I would have to stand there and he would kick the shit out of me for 10 minutes straight, like full strength. I would have his bootlaces red, almost bloody through and those pants that we wear, those are thick, almost bloody through my legs. Like I would have bruises down the sides.
Some would say, Kate,
arms.
That's just good damn training.
Yeah. So at the time,
it's tough because I'm sitting here like that's pretty good training.
Well, chaps, at the time, I was like, we all would be in the smoke pit after, like, that was a good sesh. Like, yeah, we felt badass and we felt tough because he was kicking the shit out of us.
Kate couldn't wait
on the opposite
to get
end of that, Kate. If he's kicking the shit out of everybody else and goes easy on you, you would have fucking hated it.
Yeah. You're right. You know, like honest to God, like 100% absolutely right.
But I bet Kate couldn't wait to get into a kick fight at the bar that night. Like, I wish somebody would get in a kick fight with me.
In hindsight, like looking at what our mission and blah, blah, it was like, that was so wildly unnecessary that I think he just enjoyed kicking us.
Oh yeah, there's definitely instructors that cause like ACL damage and MCL damage because they kick people too low.
Yes, people could have gotten like
seriously
ruined.
Hurt.
Yeah.
But I mean, another one, we used to do dog training because we have a drop your purse. Like whenever you're going through a building, we don't want your arms to be super extended because you're likely to bump into something. Like the closer you can keep things to your body, the better. So if you're going with your dog, you keep your arm tucked in and you only have minimal movement that you absolutely need. One of my instructors put a taser, like a remote controlled dog taser, around your leg at any point. And if you lifted your arm in a certain way, move somewhere, you're getting shocked. And so like, for me, hearing that part of the story that everybody freaked out about him kicking him and saying, make your stick shit, like that one didn't affect me that much. Yeah. Like I was like,
reading this, when Lambo told Meyer to never kick him again, Lambo said Meyer's response was, I'm the head ball coach. I'll kick you whenever the fuck I want.
So I kind of like it. I kind of like it.
No. Because here's the difference, Chaps. Here's the difference.
I understand there's a difference, but if you put camo on Urban Meyer's body and on Josh Lambo's whenever he's saying that, and you're going through a range where you're low crawling through the mud and your head's down and you don't slap somebody's head, get your fucking turtle head back inside your shell, and you don't do that, put their face down into the mud, I don't feel like that's good training. Like in the I'm saying from the military.
Yeah, in the military,
doing this
the
like
NFL.
That, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, this is the NFL, and I think
5 out of 10 kick.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Urban ran into. Yeah, she is. She's like, oh, why is everyone getting kicked?
It's never okay.
That's not okay. He should be nice. He should apologize. No, his problem was that, and you hear it in this response right here. Nobody in the NFL calls themselves the head ball coach. The head ball coach is very much a collegiate thing where it's like the head ball coach.
It's a Steve Spurrierism.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. That was Steve Spurrier. It was the Under Armour click clack commercial. We all remember it. That was great. But it has its roots in the head coach at a college program has so much control over what's going on in that program.
Coach is daddy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Whereas the NFL, the head coach is more
co-worker.
In some ways, but
it is like Aaron Rodgers talks about that. He's like, in college, if you would go up and be like, hey, Urban, to the head coach, you would be crucified for it.
That's the thing. In college, you're a kid.
And the pros are like, hey, Mike, what's going on?
Right. College, you're a kid. You're dealing with adults. Once you're a pro, it's like, that was a weird thing for me when I got out of the military and started working in the world and just calling people obviously older than me by their first name. I was like, this is weird. I just kind of called everyone Mr. and Mrs. growing up. And then in the military, I had ranks. It feels weird just calling you Brian. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the difference here. You can't treat these guys in the NFL like you would treat a college kid. But this also leads me to believe that he thought it was okay to kick his players when he was in college. Yeah. Also not okay.
Who knows? I'm waiting for more stories to come out of
it's already happening on Twitter where former Ohio State players are just tweeting out like the clapping hands emoji. They're fucking happy too. The players are all like stoked about it. I just don't know how you get to that position and are so unbelievably misguided about what it takes to lead.
Because everybody's always sucking your dick 24/7. And you get to do clearly Urban Meyer for much of his career got to do whatever the fuck he wanted.
He was completely driven by ego because at the collegiate level, he was never told anything but how amazing he was.
Because winning football,
because he was.
Organizations is more important than human beings or anything else. So.
Right, which is true because college football is better than anything.
Right,
but. Mm-hmm. You see it like, when you get to the NFL, all those coaches are like, dude, you haven't won anything. And it doesn't matter how many wins you had at college. None of those matter for absolutely zero in the NFL.
This kind of made in a roundabout way. Marines who got into trouble, you have a Marine who's shit hot and a Marine who is a dirtbag who's always fucking up like a shitbag. Those two Marines could get into the same trouble on the same weekend. The Marine who's shit hot will get way more leeway than the one who sucks already.
And
like if you're shit hot,
because you earned it.
If you're shit hot, people are like, well, we'll give him another chance. We'll give him another chance. You're more apt to get another chance if you're even if you're a shitty person. So
like if at work, if for instance, when Brandon Walker pushed Devlin a few years ago, if that's somebody who doesn't have Brandon Walker's like talent and ability, they get fired immediately. Fired immediately. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
Like you have, for better or worse, and some people don't like it. I feel like it's the way that the world works. If you're more talented and you're better at what you do, you're going to get more chances. You just
are. I think this is just a classic case of you need to know when to adapt your leadership style, and you can't just there's not a one size fits all leadership style. So when you made that transition from college to the NFL, you realize you treat these guys as professionals, as adults, almost not as peers because you're certainly still the head coach, but you speak with them with a different level of respect and treat them differently.
But you don't, when you are in charge, everybody knows you're in charge too.
Yes. You don't have to remind them.
Like when your title is head coach, people know that you're in charge. You don't have to fucking kick them to make them know that you're head coach. And the last thing I want to say about this is because Urban spent so much time on TV as an analyst, he would give all these leadership insights about what a coach needs to do. And there was one graphic that was repeatedly going viral this weekend where he talked about exactly what needs to happen if you're having a breakdown in the locker room. He said, one, you got to identify the trust issues. Where is that coming from? Urban, the call is coming from inside the house.
Yes.
Number two, a dysfunctional environment. I would say that this qualifies in Jacksonville. And finally, three, selfishness. One of the parts that really blew my mind, and this is the last thing I'll say about it, probably not, but when he would go through the list of what was wrong with players,
with everybody
and he would say, you're going to have to ask the position coach about that. You're going to have to ask the coordinator. I'm not involved in micromanaging. Well, what the fuck are you?
Yeah, what are you doing here? You just stand on the sidelines each Sunday?
And it just goes so against every leadership principle that I've ever had and like believe in, where if you're in charge, anything that's wrong is wrong because of you, and anything that's going right is going right because of the people that work with you. Like
Yeah.
that, you never take credit and always take blame.
Right. I'd be interested just because he won so much when he was in college. Would love to go back to a press conference post game when he lost and hear how he treated that. We just don't have a lot of those.
And I think that's what killed him. Like it did go into a fact like where people said he's going to struggle if he loses. He lost 14 games or he's only won 2 out of the first 14 games that they had here. And that was more than he had lost at Florida and Ohio State combined, I believe.
I mean, dude, look at Nick Saban. Nick Saban didn't succeed at the NFL. You're just dealing with a different beast.
Everybody talks about that, but Nick Saban was above 500 and had Miami on the right path. He could coach. He just didn't want to deal with that. He didn't want to deal with it.
I'm not taking away from Nick Saban because he's clearly knows the game of football inside and out. But I do think that there's not a 1-for-1 translation. Just because you're undefeated in college doesn't mean you can be undefeated in the NFL.
I think this is the worst coaching hire in the history of the NFL, and it passes Bobby Petrino because of the way that it ended. At least Bobby Petrino left on his own accord. Nick Saban had to be fired after fingering somebody in the butthole in Ohio and kicking a player.
Not Nick Saban.
No. Urban Meyer
started.
Urban Meyer.
Oh,
you misspoke there.
As you were. All right, let's move on to round number 3, which today is going to be brought to you by our good friends at Cross Country Mortgage. If you're looking to move like Urban Meyer is, maybe he should get a little call from Cross Country Mortgage because they can find him a good deal, which he actually might need because he was fired for cause, which means that he's not going to be getting the rest of the $40 million that he is owed. That would piss me off big time. But it's going to look good on Chad for keeping it too. Like he could have fired him after the Ohio video. And now I think with that video not going home, having all these different issues and kicking a player, I think he can win in court for firing for cause. And if that's $40 million less rich, so you might need to get a great deal on a home. Everybody needs a great deal on a home. That's why we go with crosscountrymortgage.com/Barstool to learn more about your future home buying experience or refinance your current mortgage. That's Cross Country Mortgage LLC NMLS 3029. All loans are subject to underwriting approval. www.mlsconsumeraccess.org. The rates are at an all-time low. They may never be this low again. Call today for a free rate quote, and our partners are going to save you a lot of money. Call them today. Our friends at Cross Country Mortgage will give you a home valuation that is free just for calling. So that means if you're selling, they're going to help you out as well. Let's move on to round number 3.
Number 3.
Let's do round number 3. Kate, what we got?
I'm Ron Burgundy.
I'm Ron Burgundy. I love that. A team of researchers has attempted to determine if the phrases "it's not rocket science" and "it's not brain surgery" are justified by comparing the intelligence of 329 aerospace engineers, 72 neurosurgeons, and 18,257 members of the public. Their new study suggests that those in these esteemed professions are no smarter than the rest of us. It's not rocket science and it's not brain surgery are common phrases that describe things that are easy to understand. The neurosurgeon, hey, I have to tie my shoes. It's not rocket science, like shit like that. Although some public debate has occurred as to which pursuit is more difficult, it seems the two phrases have not been peer reviewed. Oh, it's not rocket science to read, Kate, dumb bitch. Right? Anyway, in this research paper, online tests were used to measure several aspects of cognition, including memory, attention, and problem-solving speed. Although equally matched in most regards, they found aerospace engineers showed better mental manipulation, while neurosurgeons exhibited better semantic problem solving. I'm not neither of those. I don't know what either of those means. Compared to the general population, neurosurgeons could solve problems faster but had slower memory recall, while aerospace engineers displayed no significant difference. It is possible that both neurosurgeons and aerospace engineers are unnecessarily put on a pedestal, and it's a walk in the park, or another phrase unrelated to a career. It is also possible that other professions might deserve to be on that pedestal, and that future work should aim to determine the most deserving group. I think podcasters the most.
As we know, I am a rocket scientist, so I'm taking a little offense to this study because I do believe we do stand above the rest, and I think we could add podcasters. I think we could add coders to that list. What are some other jobs we should add to this list?
Botanist. I think botanists are underrated.
Dude, what Mark Watney did to survive on Mars? Are you kidding me?
Folks? Just
what do you call a veterinarian who works specifically with dog penises?
I think you would call him a urologist veterinarian.
Red rocket scientist.
Oh, Red
There
Rocket.
you go.
Good joke, Kate.
There
Well
you go.
done. Wow.
That's good. I like that.
Unbelievable.
Let me ask you guys a question though, just more generally. Okay. What are some contributing factors where if you are speaking to someone, let's just say you walk into a bar and you start speaking to a person, you don't know anything about them, because I think there are certain generally accepted qualifying factors like, oh, where someone went to school or what their job is, as we're talking about here. But if you're just talking to a stranger in a bar, what needs to occur for them or for you to say, wow, this person's really smart?
Well, one, I don't like to talk to people at bars.
That's true.
No.
Number two,
Although
would be-
you're actually very adept at it, chaps. I've been in many social situations with you. You are very adept at navigating a bar.
yeah,
You know
I
what
am.
it is for me?
I am
If
smart enough
I-
to navigate myself through conversations.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
guys.
The speed at which
You should look into doing that for a living.
I should, yeah.
the speed at which I zone out, the faster I zone out when you're talking to me, the smarter you probably are. Because
Okay.
the second I don't understand something, my brain's like, nah, I'm done.
Me, it's
Okay.
cufflinks.
Nah.
If you're wearing cufflinks,
Cufflinks.
I automatically assume you're just way more fancy than me.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
like, what are you doing that you need to be wearing cufflinks? Because I'm only in a t-shirt. Like, why
Yeah.
are you in cufflinks? What are
Yeah.
you doing throughout the day where you need those?
100%.
Yeah.
Cufflinks. Also, I'm very thrown off by people that actually have pennies in their penny loafers. Thrown off by
Ooh.
that. I'm thrown off for people that have umbrellas and they know it's going to rain in several hours. Like people that are that prepared.
Very thoughtful people. Yes.
Yeah. People
Right.
that constantly not only write in their journals, like their notebooks, but they actually go back and look at those notes. I'm
Mhm.
always blown away by those folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it's people who order wine before 5 p.m. because I don't know, but that just seems to me like that. You must be smart. You know something.
A
People-
red wine order at a straight up bar like we were at
Yeah.
last week. You go there and you're like, what do you have? And they're like, oh, I have a cab. Oh, do you have a Malbec? And they're like,
Mm.
yeah, we have a Malbec, but it's not great.
Yeah.
What about a Petite Syrah? Yeah, we have
Mm.
that. That one's good. Okay, I'll take that. Like when they
Right.
know what kind of red wine they want from a bar, even in a bar environment, fancy.
Yes. I mean,
I
we're
mean-
now we're conflating fancy with smart, but I guess maybe does
Right.
fancy equal
I think
smart?
they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think you might be right, actually.
I was watching old episodes of The Simple Life of Paris Hilton the other day. I don't know.
Is
Well-
she fancy though? But she's like trailer park fancy, right?
No, she's a Hilton. No, she's
No, I mean, I know
born
she
and
has a
bred-
lot of money, but I don't think when Paris Hilton walks in, you don't get like not Gwyneth Paltrow. You don't get Nicole Kidman as fancy.
Yes, I would agree. Fancy, because also fancy, I think, goes hand in hand with classy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Mm,
I
yeah.
also do think Paris sort of, if you've ever, there's a documentary about her. I think it's on YouTube.
I like
That
it.
she kind of played up that role a little bit when she was on that show. And they
Oh, I
played
know, I
into
know,
the
you can
whole,
tell,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And the
But,
way that
um,
she
I was just
was
goofing.
acting in One Night in Paris, she's not at risk of getting hired by any FBI agents at any point.
Yeah. No, so I just think that's interesting because I think about that. What makes me
Kate?
think.
We can't make One Night in Paris jokes? She released it on her own accord.
Yeah.
And made
it
shit
was-
ton of money about it.
Fine.
I feel like if it's one that was leaked, I wouldn't make that joke. Like I wouldn't make that joke about Jennifer Lawrence.
You know what?
Mhm.
I hate that if I release the sex tape, I do believe that like people who follow would absolutely pay money for it, but not to be horny, more out of like morbid curiosity.
Just to roast it.
More to be like,
God, that
she's
would
got to
suck.
have weird
No,
holes.
No, this would be
Kate,
the
I think that's
worst-
true of anybody.
This would be the worst
Mm.
company to have your sex tape released because it would be like when we post up a video on Instagram or a picture where somebody's going to zoom into the corner and be like, oh
Yeah.
shit, you don't pick up your fucking Cheerios that are in the corner. Somebody's going to be doing that and be like, oh, I see somebody's got a fucking dingleberry. Dude, just enjoy
Right.
watching me fucking 69. Stop
Yeah.
looking for a little joke.
Exactly.
There's
Yeah.
quite a lot of dust on your nightstand there.
Yeah.
Right,
It's like,
yeah.
dude, I'm doing moves that you couldn't even dream about. People had no idea I was this limber.
I
Yeah.
know.
Hmm.
It's something to think
Disgusting.
about. Anyway.
Anyway, no, but I'm just curious if there's other people, if you're listening, tweet at me, like what qualifies somebody as smart just from talking to them? If they say something or do something, if that makes that person smart.
Well, you're smart if you shave that big old dick of yours, Cons, because it is the season to make sure that the wreath around your dick, the natural wreath around your vagina, that bad boy will clip the shit out of a coochie too, boys. So make sure that you go get one. They have the Shears 2.0 luxury 4-piece nail kit. They got the crop mops for your balls if them things are stinky. Oh, by the way, I put one of those in my carry-on whenever I was flying, hop into the old restroom after a flight, give the old boys a little rub-a-dub, and I feel like a nice little piece of citrus is just sitting there strolling through LaGuardia. It was lovely. Make sure that you get their #1 conditioner and shampoo combined. You can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, which Kate likes to do. They also have their Manscaped signature cologne that you can get. You can get all that for 20% off by going plus free shipping to manscaped.com with the promo code 0, whether it's for your partner, your dad, your brother, your friend, whoever, anybody that you've seen, just a casual passerby that has a really hairy bush sticking outside their Lululemons or their bare bottom clothing, whatever they happen to have. If you see a huge bush, just let them know, hey neighbor, got something coming for you. Don't worry about it. Wasn't expensive. Got it 20%
you don't have
off
to live like
promo
that.
code 0. Exactly right, Kate. Exactly right. All right, let's move on to round number 4. This one's about the Taliban, and it's real sad. Kate, what do we got?
Certainly is. Afghanistan's Taliban rulers believe that women must have the right to education and work. The spokesman for the Taliban's political office tells NPR, our endeavors are underway now to solve this problem. Mohammed
Unfortunately,
Naeem
there's
Wardak
nothing that we
says,
could do to allow this.
Yeah, our hands are tied. Otherwise, we think women... and their hands are tied as we're killing them, but that's neither here nor there. Speaking in Arabic in a wide-ranging 40-minute interview on December 11th, Wardak, age 47, also discussed efforts to resume operations at Kabul's airport, expressed support for protection of Afghanistan's cultural heritage, don't mind all that shit we blew up, that priceless artifacts, and emphasized the Taliban's commitment to continuing talks with the U.S. and international community, which has not formally recognized the Taliban as Afghanistan's government. We want to deal positively with the whole world and all countries, Wardak said. We do not want any problems. Wow, I sure believe it. He sounds
See,
so
like,
lovely.
this is what I mean at the start. Why would the BBC publish that wording? Like, that is legitimately Taliban propaganda.
Yeah, when asked about what the Taliban are doing to address the many problems facing Afghanistan, which the images coming out of starving children, people in enormous lines at the banks trying to get their money, it's endless. Human rights violations, obviously, occurring in enormous numbers. He said, in reality, we did not create these problems. These problems came from the outside. At the moment, the biggest challenge facing the people of Afghanistan and the government of Afghanistan is the economic siege and the freezing of funds by the United States and other problems in the banks as well. As you know, this isn't a problem that was born today. The previous Afghan administration unfortunately emptied the funds out of the banks. At the same time, the failure to acknowledge the government of Afghanistan represents the Afghan people and has provided safety and security to them and has ended the wars that have been going on for over 40 years. They're letting them say this in this article. This
right, like completely not going. This is like a puff piece interview for the fucking Taliban.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even want to read it.
And there's from multiple sources that are just like this. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it goes on and on. As you know, the Afghan people are not only in Kabul. Kabul is a city, and the Afghan population is around 40 million people. And all of these 40 million do not live in Kabul. In Kabul, there are maybe 5 or 6 million, and all of them do not think the same, if not all on the same idea. And this is another point. Unfortunately, blah, blah. He goes on and on talking about, it's just it's a fluff piece. It's a fluff piece.
It's a fluff piece for the Taliban. And it's like, why are you doing this? And I do think, and it's a problem, there's got to be a way for us to think more rationally and I guess more humanely about the way that we inflict different types of economic sanctions on people. Just because somebody lives under Taliban rule does not mean that they should starve to death. And that's essentially what we're doing. Like, because the Western world has cut off all economic funds to Afghanistan completely, it's affecting the people of Afghanistan too.
They're very much victims of their circumstance.
Right. And you can't do anything militarily because we've seen that don't work. Now we're seeing that the economic sanction, it falls on the backs of children. Like the problems that we have for global conflict and even regional conflict, it can't the punishment can't fall upon children.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, no. It's
I don't think we
that
need
part
to
of
say
it.
anything.
No. I was just gonna say I was trying to search for any additional commentary, but it's just sad when
There's nothing.
we're talking about children here that clearly have no bearing on any
There's
of
nothing.
this.
And you couple
Yeah.
that with the report that the kids who died in the drone strike, that nothing is going to happen, that there's no negligence involved, even though children were seen 2 minutes before the trigger was pulled.
Mm-hmm.
Accountability has got to return. There has to be some semblance of accountability. I mean, the young sailor that burnt the Bonhomme Richard is facing a $1.4 billion payback that he's going to have to do after he gets out of federal prison, which obviously he'll never make in his life. So he's going to be destitute forever. Understandably, like, you burn down a $1.4 billion ship, like, you're going to face some serious consequences. Why not for the people that killed folks that didn't deserve to die? That seems pretty bad.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
All
Somebody
right, let's
pulled
move
that trigger.
on to round number 5. It's a little more positive. Again, this one comes Jimmy Carter. I'm excited about this story because I had no idea. I think that there's certain folks in history that whenever they're presented a certain way years afterwards, that's all you know them as.
Yes.
For right now, there's several people in the sports world that pop to mind. Lee Corso, one. Most people that are under 40, I would say 35, 40, had no idea that he was a really good head football coach too. Like, that he coached and was actually out there. 2, Terry Bradshaw. Nobody looks at him and think about all the Super Bowls that he won with the Steelers. They just look at him as a bald guy that talks about football on Sundays. Same thing with Howie Long. Like, whenever they're so far removed, that's what happened to old Jimmy. Now, I think Jimmy Carter is swinging a hammer on a Habitat for Humanity house somewhere with a moon pie and an RC Cola in his pocket. That's all I think about him. But Kate, walk us through what actually happened when Jimmy was just a young lieutenant.
Yeah, this comes to us from the Historical Society of Ottawa. Delight. The world's first nuclear reactor meltdown occurred right here in the Ottawa Valley. Already didn't know that. And a young U.S. naval officer, the future U.S. President Jimmy Carter, was brought in and put in charge of containing the disaster 69 years ago this week. Leading a team of 24 men, 28-year-old Lieutenant Carter courageously had himself lowered into the damaged reactor. That week, Carter and his team exposed themselves to 1,000 times the level of radiation considered safe by today's standards. News of the December 12, 1952 reactor meltdown at Chalk River sent a shockwave of panic among scientists, politicians, and the public around the world. Hydrogen explosions followed the meltdown, which then caused hundreds of thousands of gallons of radioactive water to flood into the core. When the Canadian government turned to the U.S. nuclear experts for help, Lieutenant Carter was put in charge of the urgent operation. Can you imagine that at 28 years old?
No.
My brain can't imagine it. Carter was one of the few in the world at the time with any expertise.
And because he was 28 years old, he had been in the Navy for 6 years, and he was assigned to the Naval Reactors Branch at the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission in Washington, D.C. In his book's Reflections at 90, Carter calls preparing for the task, and the team built a replica of the reactor on a nearby tennis court to practice their next move and track the work that they'd already finished. Every pipe, bolt, and nut was rebuilt exactly as it was the way in the damaged reactor area. Lieutenant Carter divided himself and 23 guys into teams of 3. Each worked 90-second shifts, cleaning and repairing the reactor as per what they practiced on the tennis court. 1.5 minutes was the maximum time the human body could handle for the amount of radiation in the area. By today's standard, it was still way too much radiation. Carter and his men were exposed to levels 1,000 times higher than what is considered safe now.
Let's stop there for a second. If it's thousands of times higher now, it had to have still been super dangerous then, right? Or
it definitely was, but there was nothing that they could do. There's nothing they could do. They had to go in and fix it, or there's going to be a complete meltdown.
Yep.
And he said him and his teams absorbed a year's worth of radiation in that 90 seconds every time
Jesus.
they went down.
Oh my God.
The basement where they helped replace the reactor was so contaminated, Carter's urine was radioactive for 6 months.
What does that mean? What does that look like? Do you urinate and it melts the toilet? Like, what is radioactive?
I'm not sure what radioactive piss does, but I can imagine that it's great.
No.
I mean, to go through all that, and it's affected him. He's had cancer numerous times.
I didn't know that.
And beat cancer 6 times.
Holy moly. How old is he?
He's like 95 right now, some shit like that. Like he's the oldest living.
He's 97. He's 97.
He's the oldest living former president. No other president has ever reached the age that he has.
Wow, that's it. That's a feat in and of itself. And the fact that he's still kicking is very impressive.
Yeah.
This is interesting. I'm reading if you do have nuclear piss or whatever, I don't know if this website, I just found it. Like you're not supposed to be just pissing in a toilet and sending it into the sewer system. You're supposed to be, you like save your piss then and
there's no shot they knew that then.
No
shot. They're just like, oh yeah, just dump that thing out back. Probably, well, maybe not. He probably knew it was going to ruin his penis.
But your piss, because your piss and poop is how you get rid of the nuclear whatever in your body. The nuclear waste in your body is what I'm reading. And so that then became nuclear waste, and your piss and poop, if that's you, had to be taken care of appropriately as well.
I wonder, if I was Jimmy Carter, you know what I'd do? I would tattoo a biohazard
yes
logo of my cock.
Oh, for sure. around it
I'd be like, look at this little nuclear wiener I got.
You don't know if he didn't.
True. Jimmy Carter, show us that cock. We want to see it.
I mean,
at what point, at what age do you think it's no longer inappropriate to ask somebody to see their genitals?
I guess always, but I would be lying if they
say always is a good answer.
If they all willingly submitted it.
You can't be mad at 90s. I'm like, hey, pull that thing out. Let me see it. Let me give it a tug.
I do wonder if you had to line the presidents up in order.
Hog-wise? Well, we know Lyndon Johnson was the boss hog.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to safe rounds and alibis. Today we'll start with you, Nicholas, and that is going to be brought to you by our good friends at Simply Safe. If you need to keep your cock safe, no.
Nope.
Nope.
I tried.
Run that back.
No.
If you need constant eyes on your nuclear reactor site, you can set up a Simply Safe wireless camera with 1080p and 290-degree viewing capabilities. You could do that. Simply Safe was named the best home security in 2021 by U.S. News and Report. You can easily customize a system for your home online in minutes and get a free custom recommendation from Simply Safe. These are Simply Safe's biggest discount of the year. You can get a complete home security system at just over $100. There's no long-term commitments or contracts. It's a really easy way to start feeling a little bit more peace of mind. Simply Safe is everybody's home security company, and I'm no exception. Setting up technology is normally a huge hassle, but with Simply Safe, I have my system up and running in no time at all. Take advantage of Simply Safe holiday deals and get 40% off your new home security system by visiting simplysafe.com/CBT. That's again, that's simplysafe.com/CBT. Nick, what do you got?
Yeah, no real save rounds for me today. Just another reminder, please subscribe to the ZBT YouTube channel. You can see us over there. We got full video for it. So,
and an announcement, because I don't know if you're listening to this on a Friday, but we are going to start releasing our episodes on YouTube on Monday night at 8:00 Eastern time and on Thursday night at 8:00 on Eastern time. So if you go to the YouTube and subscribe, you'll get the episode several hours earlier than you would just the audio. And I can't recommend watching it enough because you'll see Kate's face cringe when I make an inappropriate joke about like a scrotum or something like that, or like asking a 90-year-old person to see their butthole.
See their cock or butthole.
Yeah.
Turn those notifications on as well. Thank you.
Exactly right. Kate, what do you got?
Ooh, I know. I always think of something after the show ends. I've got nothing right now.
Hey, what do you think about keeping a running note in your phone for the things?
She's not going to do that.
No, you're right. What am I
talking about? Can I tell you?
She's been on the show for like 5 years now.
Yeah.
I still don't use Google Calendar. I don't know how to use phone calendars or internet calendars or any of that.
What do you use to know when things are?
Post-it notes that I and also I have like 50 different alarms going at any given time, that if I know I have an interview for ZBT next week, I'll set an alarm for the day before, like reminder, you have an interview tomorrow. And then I'll set one 3 hours ahead of the interview. Hey, don't forget. And then I'll set one like 20 minutes before the interview. And sometimes I still forget.
And sometimes I'll just call.
Sometimes Chaps just calls and goes, hey, reminder. So yeah, I'm like the movie Memento, but without the trying.
But you are doing way better. There hasn't been, I can't even think really in the last year of something that you have been late for.
That's true.
Which is great.
I mean, it's been way over a year, I would say.
Which is great because there's nothing worse, man. I used to live in that constant feeling of, oh no, oh my God, oh fuck, I'm late. Like I used to live in that feeling and it was terrible. But yeah,
I think you got so many other things that you have to worry about now, where being late to something, you just don't have that luxury now to worry about something additional. There's real things that you have to concern yourself with. So skating in and being there like 1 or 2 minutes late is not something that you're willing to put yourself through in addition to what you already have to deal with as a mom.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people, like the busier you keep me, the better I am. The more shit I have going on, actually, the better off and more productive I end up being. So, and the more like structured or whatever. I always say this, like,
and Adderall.
People are like, the Marine Corps is all about leadership, blah, blah, blah. I have never been a leader. I just never was good at it.
No, we're not. See, this is
but
this is why I'm glad I'm here, because we're about to go down a Kate deprecation hole again, and I'm not going to abide that.
What I'm saying is, if I had to choose, like, I think I'm a great lead me. Like, I think there's good followers too. Like, I'm one of those, like, I'd rather.
You know what I'm about to tell you? It might blow your mind. You might blow your mind. You know, it's one trait of really great leaders. They also are good at following when they need to.
All right. I'm awesome. Thanks, guys.
And it's the truth. Things that you talk about, like with women veteran issues and stuff like that, don't sell yourself short, Katie. You're a leader for sure. Yeah. Cons, what do you got?
I just want to apologize to you guys and to the listeners. Last episode, I just was in a bad spot that day. I had a lot going on outside of this little universe. I wasn't very engaged in the show. I didn't give it 100%. I had a therapy session that evening that greatly assisted and got me to a better place this week. So I appreciate everybody sticking with me.
I'm glad you said that, because my safe round, I was going to fire you. So.
Yeah. Saved myself. Fantastic. Speaking of veteran organizations at the beginning, I realized, do you guys ever feel like everybody just assumes we have all the answers about everything when it comes to veterans?
No.
Well, I don't.
I know what you mean, yeah.
But chaps, the organization that you mentioned in Texas, I don't know what New Jersey's equivalent is of that. So if anybody does,
you're in luck, because I'm going to be publishing a blog about that very thing today.
Awesome. Perfect.
I'm going to put it out on our Instagram too, where it'll have, and maybe it'll be one of those ones that we can pin or whatever, so you can go back and see. Yeah. Every 50 state has one. Every single one of the states have one, and so does Puerto Rico, and I believe Guam is on the list too. So there is options for everybody out there.
Oh, also, speaking of Instagram and Twitter, it's getting harder and harder to find posts to put up. Like, the restrictions are getting harder. You can't put TikToks on Instagram and blah 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 blah. If you're out there and you have a funny photo from your base, even if you think we might think it's stupid, we won't. I can't guarantee we'll post it, but like, if you see something funny, send it to us. And like, I know it's tricky with like people get in trouble by their commands, blah, blah. But if there's something like a dumb sign or your vehicle does something stupid, like, send it to us. Who knows? We might put it.
And if we post something that you do end up getting talked to about, we have zero problems to take something down immediately if it gets you in trouble.
But you can always send us stuff. If you think it's funny, send it our way. If your command's doing something crazy or sends out a funny letter, whatever, like, send it to us. You can be anonymous. We'll attribute if you want it, like, whatever. But send us shit. We're always down to check stuff out and post.
Yeah, definitely. All right, last two really quickly. This has nothing to do with the military or anything, but my friend Ryan Carty just became the head coach at the University of Delaware, their football team. I'm very, very proud of him.
I remember you talking about him. What bowl game was he? Or he was in.
They won the national level. Yeah, they at Sam Houston. He won the national championship that season they played in the spring. So just very, very excited. That's his alma mater that he played at. So it's just really, really exciting. And it's crazy to think that now people our age are becoming head coaches of,
I know, right? Like,
not just like high school, but like legitimate programs.
You don't ever really get to the age where you think like, I'm an adult. I don't think, right. Like, there's certain times in my own brain where like, I'm doing pretty good, like, as a young adult. And I'm like, wait, I'm almost fucking 40. Like, I should be a lot better.
What have you been waiting for? Yeah.
that I am right now. Yeah. But I totally agree that sometimes it blows your mind at where, like, Sean McVay, I think, is younger than me with bullshit.
That's like, ridiculous.
Yeah. But maybe if I had a memory like him, I could do that too.
Probably. But. And then the last thing, I got an officer's corner for you.
Okay.
Ooh. A lot of our listeners this week and next will have their office Christmas party. You never want to be the person that everybody's talking about after the holiday Christmas party. So just be mindful of that. Watch how much you're drinking.
Oh,
sorry. I'm telling you, have a good time, but you don't want to be the person that everyone's whispering about the following week.
Sure you do. If you're getting talked about, you're making waves, man. I've gotten every holiday party we've had, I've blacked the fuck out.
Distinct difference here between the officers and the enlisted.
I smoke a pack and a half of cigarettes that night. I get kicked out of last Christmas party we had, I got kicked out of a bar afterwards.
Dropped your pizza.
Dropped my pizza. All sorts of stuff.
Oh wait, is that the one you broke your nose?
That was a date.
Oh yeah.
It was a date. Yeah.
All right. That's all I got.
Yeah. That's how you know it's a good date.
Yeah.
My save round after 16 long years of deserving it to be around his neck. Alwyn Cash today finally had the ceremony for him and his family and others as well. But it's 16 years ago. He died on November 8th of 2005 and is finally getting the medal that he deserves. But not only him. I think it was Flo Groberg that really put it the best whenever I talked to him. And he said, you know, a lot of times having the Medal of Honor and being a Medal of Honor recipient, people look at you and that's your medal. And he said, it's not. He said, Flo went back to his original unit and gave them the Medal of Honor. He doesn't even have the original one. He said it belongs to the unit. People that were with Alwyn Cash whenever he sacrificed himself and performed bravery that I can't even comprehend, they are looking on this day as almost like it's like the suffering. People recognize it now, like the things that he went through, the things that we went through, the things that, because when you lose a leader like that in such a traumatic way of being burned so much over his body where he couldn't sustain life because of it, that is the kind of thing that affects the psyche of a unit. It's the kind of thing that affects you at night in your dreams. And to be able to have a country 16 years later recognizing still the heroism, one, it shouldn't have taken that long, but two, it also serves as a reminder that when you sign up and you do what is asked for you and then you give all, you will never be forgotten in this place. Sound the retreat.
Attention orders. The President of the United States of America, authorized by Act of Congress, March 3rd, 1863, has possibly awarded in the name of Congress the Medal of Honor to Sergeant First Class Alwyn C. Cash, United States Army, for conspicuous gallantry at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty. Sergeant First Class Alwyn C. Cash distinguished himself by acts of gallantry above and beyond the call of duty while serving as platoon sergeant with Company A, 1st Battalion, 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Brigade, 3rd Infantry Division in Saladin Province, Iraq, on October 17, 2005. While on a nighttime mounted patrol near an enemy-laden village, the Bradley fighting vehicle which Sergeant First Class Cash was commanding was attacked by enemy small arms fire and an improvised explosive device, which disabled the vehicle and engulfed it in flames. After extracting himself from the vehicle, Sergeant First Class Cash set about extracting the driver, who was trapped in the vehicle. After opening the driver's hatch, Sergeant First Class Cash and a fellow soldier extracted the driver, who was engulfed in the flames. During the course of extinguishing the flames on the driver and extracting him from the vehicle, Sergeant First Class Cash's fuel soaked his uniform, igniting and causing severe burns to his body. Ignoring his painful wounds, Sergeant First Class Cash then moved to the rear of the vehicle to continue in aiding his fellow soldiers who were trapped in the troop compartment. At this time, the enemy noted his movements and began to direct their fire on his position. When another element of the company engaged the enemy, Sergeant First Class Cash seized the opportunity and moved into the open troop door and aided 4 of his soldiers in escaping the burning vehicle. Having extracted the 4 soldiers, Sergeant First Class Cash noticed 2 other soldiers had not been accounted for, and again, he entered the building to retrieve them. At this time, reinforcements arrived to further suppress the enemy and establish a casualty collection point. Despite the severe 2nd and 3rd degree burns covering the majority of his body, Sergeant First Class Cash persevered through the pain to encourage his fellow soldiers and ensure they received needed medical care. When medical evacuation helicopters began to arrive, Sergeant First Class Cash selflessly refused evacuation until all of the other wounded soldiers were evacuated first. Sergeant First Class Cash's extraordinary heroism and selfishness above and beyond the call of duty were in keeping with the highest traditions of the military, service, and reflect great credit upon himself, his unit, and the United States Army. Signed, Joseph R. Biden, the President of the United States.